Hello and welcome to the interval. Don't forget to fill in your forms if you want to ask a question, and just write anything you want. It could be about my sexuality, it could be about why I'm not working with Dan this time, it could be about anything. It could be about my career, celebrities that I haven't slept with, celebrities that I have slept with, anything you like. And also don't forget to put your name down for the competition. That's coming up later on. It's cash prizes. It's called Curly Whirly. It's going to be a fantastic competition. You can win cash prizes. That's cash. Yeah, well, it's the interval now, so go and enjoy your drink. Go on then. I said, go on. Look, there's nothing going to happen here. I'm just driving around Manchester in my car. So if you want to watch that, you're more than welcome. I'm not just talking for talking's sake. I'm not just sitting here thinking, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a recap about what's happened in the last 40 minutes. How about that? I can do that for you. Well, it started, as you might remember, in 1973 when I was at Westdale Junior School, when I was off the part of third shepherd in the school nativity. And I took the place down. I took it out really with my ad-lib lines about God, and with my tea towel on my head and a Simon belt. Of course, they don't really do Simon belts now, but you know, it was very funny in the time. And that kind of gave me the bug really, not the acting bug, the can I have some attention bug. So I went about my life trying to get as much attention as I possibly could, which is all right, you know, really, although psychologists probably say there's a problem with that. But I suppose only the same kind of problem with staying in the auditorium on a break. I mean, I'd be in the bar talking to people saying, oh, what a wonderful show, not just listening to the artiste ramble on again, you know, recapping on what happened 40 minutes ago. I mean, but that's up to you, isn't it? You know, you pays your money and you take your choice. Just watch this car. There's a policeman there. Are you, Mr. Policeman? Are you? So I left junior school. I suppose that's why I became naughty as well. I've never really thought about this, but that's probably why I become naughty, because if you're naughty, you get more attention, don't you? And then I went to senior school, but then the stakes got higher because I remember when I was a second year, that's when they had first and second years in senior school. I think it's called year 8 and 9 now or something. We had a first and second year's play, and it was called The Case of the Missing Page. And I was offered one of the leads. His name was Jack. And what it was is you had to get through this book trying to find this missing page. And the book was about me, Jack. It was quite interesting. And that was my first kind of taste at being like a star. And I was a star, really. You know, in the first and second year play scope, I was, you know, a leading light. So I went through my senior school. I did lots of different plays. My drama teacher was a woman called Joan Lewis, who was absolutely brilliant. She went on and trained lots of people that went into the media. She had a lot of time for a lot of people. A very brilliant woman. I left senior school and went straight onto a building site. And to be honest with you, I hated it. I really, really hated it. I hated the fact that you had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I hated the fact that you had to make your own way to work on a bus. And buses in them days were rubbish, absolutely rubbish, because they ran about every 3/4 of an hour. And if you missed it, that means you're going to get a right bollocking off your boss. Anyway, I left building site work after a few years, and I went into and I just did anything really. I just did anything to make money. I didn't really tell this in the story. This is kind of me. Oh, I'm waiting at a pedestrian crossing and there's no one crossing. That's showbiz for you, isn't it? You know, that's the kind of man I am. I often, all right, matey, they're on green, fella. Cheeky, want to hear. Anyway, where were we? Oh, I know, yeah. I did any job I could ever do, really, to try and earn a living. So I became a DJ. I was a DJ for a while. I forgot all about that, which was quite good fun. I was a bouncer at a club, Northern Soul Club, which was really boring because I didn't used to be a massive Northern Soul fan, and just listening to the same blue rhythm and beat all night long used to do me head in. And then I met this girl. It's always about a girl in my life. I met this girl who talked me into going to Colton Operatic to audition because they were doing Carousel and they were looking for men, because amateur theatre is always looking for men. And I auditioned. I sang Zippity Doodah for them, and they offered me a part of the chorus, which was going to be performed at the Nottingham Playhouse, which is my local theatre, because I'm from Nottingham, and that's the Playhouse. Did I tell you that you can do some question and answer later on? Well, if you've thought of another question from me just talking like this, write it down, because I could answer that. I could answer, why do you think you went on to do such rubbish jobs when you left school? Why didn't you just go straight into the acting profession? That's a very good question to ask, because I have a very good answer for that. I'm not going to answer it now, because someone might ask that question. There might be someone now in the auditorium who's just gone, Denise, pass me a pen. I'm going to ask that question. Pass me the pen, and that's the question they're going to ask. Well, I've got a really good answer for that question. I hope someone asks it now. So I joined Colton Operatic, and I went on to star in, I didn't really star in anything at Colton Operatic. I went into performing numerous musicals, including Fiddler on the Roof, where I played Avram. I had to have a beard on. Oh, and I also blacked up for the first time. I played Joe in There's an Old Man Called the what's it called? Showboat. I played Joe, and I had to black up, and it was awful, really. I mean, nothing wrong in it, really, is there? Because, well, I suppose there is. Anyway, after that, I met another girl who asked me to join the Prospect Players that did straight plays, and I did things like The Odd Couple and The Accrington Pals. And this girl who told me to join the Prospect Players said to me, why don't you go to drama school? Why don't you have a crack at see if you can do it? I said, no, me, I'm from Netherfield in Nottingham. I'm not the type of person that you see, auditioning for drama schools like the RADA and the Lambda and the likes. She said, no, I think you've got it. I think you've got a certain skill, and I think you should exploit it. This is the days before the X Factor and stuff, where, it wasn't about being a celebrity, it was about, training to be an artist. And she taught me into it, really. I mean, she was really beautiful, as they usually are. So I listened, really, and I went to the RADA, which is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I auditioned, and I got down to the last 25,000, and unfortunately they didn't want me, which is fair enough. But the next week I had an audition for the Arts Educational London Schools, made famous by the likes of people like Leslie Crowther and Martin Clunes, although Martin Clunes, when I was there, wasn't famous. He was famous kind of after I went there. But, lots of famous people went there, mainly people like Valerie Singleton. Anyway, I got in. I auditioned for a place, and they offered me a 3-year 3-year education as an actor, which is fantastic. And in those days there was even a chance of getting a grant, so I had to apply to Notts County Council to see if they would give me £10,000 a year to go toward my college place. Unfortunately I didn't get offered £10,000 a year, so I was kind of left in the lurch again. And I didn't know what to do, and all my friends kind of said, well, that'll be it then. At that time I was working for the NHS, and I remember lots of people just thinking, well, Mark will just go back to working and that'll be the end of his dream and he'll give up his place. And I thought, well, no, you know, thousands of people every year apply for drama school and they don't get to the last 30 people. So I must be chosen, I must have some talent if a drama school thinks that you know, it's willing to, you know, give up a bit of its time on me. So I decided to get my head down, and I did loads and loads of things to try and get myself some money. I had a big concert, and I charged people 10 quid a time to get into that. Made a few quid, and then I wrote some letters to famous people like Judi Dench, Sir John Gielgud, Sir Anthony Hopkins. And I was lucky enough to get money off Sir John Gielgud and Sir Anthony Hopkins that took me, they kind of got me the start I needed really, and got me down to London. And as I got to London, I was absolutely broke because I'd given all the money that the famous people had given me to the college. So I was brassic. I had to sign on, and a mate of mine, Mark, who had just finished at RADA, he offered me space on his floor for a while, but it wasn't very good. I didn't really get on with his girlfriend. She didn't really like me. I mean, I don't blame her really, you know. It's hard, isn't it, you know, sharing a small tiny bedsit with 3 people. But I had noticed, I'd walked across Hampstead Heath, and I decided to nip home, get my tent and pitch my tent up on Hampstead Heath. And I know it sounds bizarre, but thousands of people walk along Hampstead Heath, but nobody ever walks off the path. You know, the beaten track is never ever walked off. So it is kind of a brilliant place to go. So I pitched my tent up and I was there, you know, all of that first, what's the word I'm looking for? What are they called? Term, the first term, you know, September, October, November, December. And what I did was I used to get up really early in the morning, and I used to walk to college, and they had facilities and stuff at college. They had showers and things because they train ballerinas, you know, and they get really sweaty. So I'd have a shower in the morning, I'd eat some breakfast in the canteen or steal some, maybe nick a pint of milk on my way to college. And I'd be in the warm all day, and we worked 9 till 9, so it wasn't as if, you know, I was bored. And then at night time I'd come home. And I'd get home about 10 o'clock at night. I'd just wrap up, keep myself really, really warm, and then that was it really. Stay in bed. Sometimes I had to turn the stove on to keep myself warm. Weekends were the worst, of course, because there was no college. So what I used to do is I used to get up and I used to walk down to Camden maybe, or Kentish Town, and I used to wander through the shops. Saturday morning the libraries were still open, and I could sit in the library for a bit talking to tramps and stuff. And then, you know, as I went further into college, I met people who knew that I was in a bit of a state, in a bit of a predicament. They used to invite me around, and I used to just sit there and do things, you know, treat myself and watch television or something, which was really, really kind of them. That's where I met Amanda, of course. She used to invite me around quite regularly because she's a very kind lady. Anyway, I went back home at Christmas, after Christmas, which was fantastic. I got back to Hampstead Heath, and my tent had been cleared away. Obviously some ranger had spotted the tent and decided that it wasn't appropriate for a park, one of London's parks, and took it away. So I was left again homeless. I went back to Mark and his girlfriend, and she was again very annoying, but she let me stay for a week or so, and then I spotted her. I was lucky enough, I was walking to college one day, and there's a bit of wasteland, and on this bit of wasteland was a white transit van just sat in the corner of this bit of wasteland, and I'm thinking, that's a good place to sleep, that. I mean, it's exactly like a camper van, I suppose, isn't it? So I went in, and I think it probably had foxes in it. I don't know, you know, urban foxes. They have urban foxes in London and all sorts. Anyway, I went in. It was a bit of a mess, but I thought, well, I could live here, quite happily live here for the rest of the term, and no one would know about me. Well, in the corner, right next to us, was Christine and Roy. I told you about Christine and Roy. Well, that's about it. That's the recap. That's 15 minutes. You should all be coming out the bar. It might be filling up again now. I'm going to go in here. This is a sex parlour. I like to treat myself before I go out on tour. Don't forget to ask questions. Ask a question about Michelle that I'm going to meet right now. Enjoy yourself. Thanks for listening.
That may be longer than that.